Hi everybody, it's Nick. Yeah, one of my slightly more raw menopause blogs, so I'll try and hold it together. It's not been the greatest. It's not been the greatest day, or has it? Well, we'll see. It hasn't ended yet, right? So I had some thoughts about the menopause today because I'm in the middle of transitioning between two different types of HRT, and today I've definitely had what I would call a bit of a hormonal crash, which is basically my hormones have got all confused. They're a bit out of balance. They're not in sync with each other. And the orchestra is, I view the hormone system like an orchestra, really. And my orchestra are, the different parts are playing different tunes, out of tune, all kinds of things. I don't know. There's a million and one metaphors I'm sure I could use. But the upshot to it is I'm feeling really tired, really teary, really sad, really lost. Now, the upside, the biological aspect of what's happening, I get my head around. So HRT can stop working if you've been using it in a particular form for a long period of time. Actually, see previous vlog on that. A bit like it's the concept of antibiotics when they stop working. So you have to re-engineer it and start having HRT in a different way. And then you get this I'm getting this hormonal crash in the middle. But what it's got me thinking about is the emotional side of the menopause. That, I think the emotional and the mental side of the menopause is hugely unsupported, misunderstood, not discussed enough, not anywhere near enough. And it got me thinking about why is the menopause so bloody hard for some of us? I mean, has it always been this hard and people just didn't talk about it? Or is it genuinely more hard than it was? Well, I don't know. I can't answer that with any degree of certainty because I haven't lived through this before. Well, not consciously, depending on whether you believe in several lives or not. What I do understand, though, from the evidence is that, we evolve as human beings. We evolve to be able to operate in the environments we're in, and that our role as women has evolved significantly over certainly in modern history. And we've gone from effectively stay-at-home baby making machines, predominantly homemakers and so forth, to living in a world where we are getting, certainly in the westernized modern world, really getting, our education, many more options, more choices, more freedom, a completely, the narrative, the landscape around the role of the woman has changed enormously. I mean, if we just look back at the last 50 years, it's changed, for the better, absolutely for the better. I've certainly benefited from that change and had a very free, liberated life as a woman. But I'm not sure that our biological systems are changing at the same rate. And this is a discussion I often have with my menopause specialist about why we're getting hit so hard in the menopause, because our environment is out of sync with our evolution and our biology. So our brain is still calling for certain hormones that our bodies are stopping making earlier than perhaps previously. That's a bit of a hypothesis, because we're no longer baby making machines. That may be one thing we choose to do, or not, as the case may be. And then that led me to something else, which is, this emotional side of it, which is very nuanced and difficult. And I think it's so confused on the whole mental health debate, which is a whole other landscape, which is very, very blurred. And I think I know a lot of it, myself included, over the years, menopausal women who have been basically diagnosed as depressed and given antidepressants. Now, I'm actually a big supporter of antidepressants given for the right circumstances and in the right place. And I think the discussion for that is between you and your GP and nobody else. I don't think it's down to judgment about whether we should or shouldn't. It's not. It's down to circumstances and needs. I have taken them in the past and they've been hugely beneficial when I've needed to take them. But what I do find is this hormonal depression is very different, and antidepressants don't really help. And it passes. This is more of a cycle. So this is more up and down. It's less consistent than the thudding drum of pure depression, which, for me personally, I found happens when there have been significant triggers and changes in my life. Whereas this somehow feels different. It doesn't have the same consistency. It's much more volatile and up and down. And also I can't necessarily associate it with such acute triggers. And the thing that hit me is that, the narrative around particularly aging women in our society isn't terribly helpful. It hasn't been terribly helpful forever, really. Because, the thing, what's the one consistent thing I say to myself when I'm feeling sad and down in the dumps when I have hormonal depression or hormonal crash? I don't know what words are the right words. I'm just feeling for some to try and help convey it. And I think for other women who, if this is resonating with you and you're listening to this, then you'll get it. The question I write quite a lot. I like writing, and I often draw pictures with little captions as my way of expressing and trying to get stuff out and allow it to flow. What is the point of me? What is my purpose? What is my reason for being here? What is the value that I can add? And then it got me thinking about, I think that's a really fundamental, deep question that really the menopause really forces us to kind of face, because we're going into the crone phase, which means this is, effectively the final act. I mean, not to sound, I don't want to sound depressing or dark about it. It's just a fact of life. The crone phase is the last phase, and of course when you're in your 50s, certainly for me, turning 50 was a big deal in terms of it really brought home the whole issue of mortality, because the reality is, looking at statistics, I'm over halfway. I'm over halfway through the time that I've been allocated, whether it be for this go round, whether there's more than one go round. I don't know. None of us know, right? So there's some big things that occur just by the very nature of the age we're at. And added to that is the fact that, if we have had, for women who have had families, they're generally growing up. We have the whole empty nest syndrome. And although having young children at home has its own challenges in terms of, the demands on us, so forth, actually I found in a lot of ways my life was more clear cut, because it was just more, it had to be like that. So actually sometimes having too many options and too many choices can, interestingly enough, create a gap in itself. I think also, I got to the stage where that zest for having a career and chasing the dream and chasing the pound or chasing whatever it is any of us are chasing, or we're all chasing something, right? That energy and that drive just went for me. It's just not there. I'm not interested in, some rigorous working week of dedicating huge amounts of time. I'm not particularly invigorated or motivated by the thought of re-entering into a professional career. Now that doesn't mean, I don't have the skills or the experience. The big thing for me is I don't have the motivation. Now I know that would be very, very different, very, very different if I had to make those decisions from a financial and economic perspective. And I absolutely understand how blessed I am not to be in that position. But equally, I think what I do look back on is 20, 25 years of doing that. And more, actually, because I was 13 when I started work selling Avon. If anybody remembers that, taking the Avon, and then waitressing, and then working all my way through uni, and then the minute I finished uni, getting into a job. And, I just was so driven, and I just worked every hour God sent, and I loved it. You know what? I really, really loved it. I loved the hustle and bustle. I loved the drive. I loved the achievement. I loved the progression. I loved what I did. It was just amazing. And then one day, one day it just stopped. The music just stopped for me. It just became a production line and soul destroying, and there were all these other things in life that were catching my attention, and I craved, more time at home and a simpler life, and so forth. So I guess I squashed. Yeah, I think the honest answer is I probably squashed more than 25 years work into that 25 years, if I'm really honest. But anyway, I'm getting a little bit off piece because I'm all over the place today. I am all over the place today. So I'll try and come back to point, which is, what is my point? It's quite difficult. It is quite difficult given the way we have organised our world, I think, as a middle-aged woman going through the menopause, to actually find our place. And I think there's a lot of grief and sadness associated with that, because for anybody like me who lost, well, did I lose my place in the world? Actually, I decided to leave the place I had in the world, because I wanted to spend time and bring my family up. And then when I'd done that, I did try and go back to that place that I'd left. And I found that the cost of doing so was too great, because it took me away from my family a lot, 5 full days, and I wasn't able to balance it. So I realised I couldn't go back to that place that I'd left. And I think I am still searching for what my new place can be. And I think it's quite hard as a middle-aged woman, because it's not the natural starting point, is it, in our society? And the big parallel I would draw is killer whales, who are the other mammal who go through the menopause. So the female whales go through the menopause, and after they've been through the menopause, they still have a significant duration of life, longevity left. And they generally become leaders of the pod. So they have their place in their society carved out. They have their purpose, because they no longer have the young dependent on them. So they have the freedom to dedicate their time to other things. And they also have the experience and wisdom of all of those previous years, which they can then use for the greater good of the pod. And that's basically what happens. And I'm not sure that as a society, we've really worked out and grasped how we can harness the wisdom and the experience, I think the empathy, I think the feminine energy, I think the maternal aspects, core parts of us, all of those things. I don't think we've worked out how to really harness and celebrate them and allow women to, what's the word? What's the word? Brain fog's so bad today. And allow women to really step into that place in a way that fits with where we are. The best example, I'll give another metaphor because I know I'm not explaining this very well. The other week, I had to go and see a neurologist because of some headaches I've been having. All fine. It's all fine. And one of the things he said that really resonated deeply with me, because that, along with my torn Achilles tendon and the headaches which are coming from the spine, are both to do with some of the high impact sport that I've done all my life. And he said, I wouldn't tell you not to do anything, because obviously, it's important to stay fit and stay active. But we live in a society which seems to constantly be telling us to de-age, to keep ourselves young. He says, and the reality is there are consequences for that. So our bodies are going to age whether we like it or not. We are going to age whether we like it or not. And we have to make decisions about how we want that to be. And if we choose, so I can choose to carry on doing those high impact sports, but the risks I am running are of having some of these injuries, which have really been quite debilitating for the last year. Or I can perhaps choose to do different sports which are more in tune and more nurturing and nourishing for my body as it ages. So to embrace aging and to think about what sports, if I still want to carry on doing sport, I would like to engage in more that will be kinder to my body, because I can't make my body younger. And I thought they were really wise words from this guy, because he was very gently saying to me, you know, I don't have the body of a 20 or 30-year-old. So if I want to treat it like the body of a 20 or 30-year-old, then there are going to be consequences to that. And these are some of the consequences that, we're now dealing with. And I think that is a really good concept for us to hang on to, because, having a full-on career was brilliant when I was younger, and I had the energy and the motivation and the zest. It was brilliant, but it's not brilliant for me now. So, and I think society, it kind of feels like, and I don't know if this sounds a bit self-pitying, but it kind of feels like I've got off the bus because it was too busy for me. And I'm sat waiting at the bus stop and no other bus is coming. And if other buses do pull up, they're rammed too. And I just don't know what bus to get on. And it leaves you feeling, this constant question of, well, what am I about? What am I about? And these self-esteem issues that come with these hormonal drops are really significant. And I know that some of those are driven by the biological aspects of getting the hormones in line. But I think there's something deeper here that we need to be exploring. And this is why I really think we need more emotional and mental and therapeutic support to really talk through this stuff. I don't have the answers. I think I'm sharing this because, gosh, it's very long, and I doubt anybody's going to hear all of this anyway. Who would want to sit and listen to me rambling on for 17 minutes now? But if anybody has decided that they do want to listen to it and think, me too, oh my God, I get that, then that's fantastic. And I'm not saying I've got the answers. I think what I'm trying to say is there's a conversation to be had here. And I'm not sure. I think we're missing a trick. And there's something far more nuanced and deeper in our society that we haven't quite cracked. And it's not as simplistic as saying, I'd rather skin get women back into the workplace and so forth. Not that they aren't great. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying it's getting women back into the workforce or wherever they want to be in a way that is in tune with where we are at our point in life in this crone phase, which makes the most of what we've got to offer and does so in a way that allows us to be able to offer it without feeling constrained or suffocated or overwhelmed. It's a big question, right? Thanks for listening. Lots of love.